Today's episode is brought to you by Kelleher & Buckley Law Firm. Smart business owners recognize that sound legal advice is critical to future success. The attorneys at Kelleher & Buckley have been providing legal guidance to families, business owners, and C-level executives since 1997. From employment law and compliance issues to buying, selling, or merging companies, the corporate attorneys at Kelleher & Buckley advise businesses across a wide variety of industries and professions. Over the years, co-founders Andy Kelleher and Dave Buckley have assembled a team of highly skilled attorneys to create a full-service law firm. I've gotten to know and have done deals with Andy Kelleher, Dave Buckley, and their team. They are truly a full-service law firm with outstanding talent. To find out how they can help you protect your assets and your future, contact them at kelleherbuckley.com. That's KELLEHERBUCKLEY.com. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you.
Looking to buy, sell, or grow your business to position it for a sale? As the owner and managing partner of Sun Acquisitions, Domenic Rinaldi has personally been involved in over 300 M&A transactions. He has seen and done it all, consulting with large and small businesses across a broad range of industries. On M&A Unplugged, he'll interview buyers, sellers, and their advisors about their experiences scaling, selling, and acquiring businesses. On every episode, you will get key learnings, but most importantly, you will be better prepared for your own acquisition or sale. This is M&A Unplugged with your host, Domenic Rinaldi.
M&A Unplugged community, I am thankful that we have people like my guest today who have a particular skill set to help business owners navigate through these difficult times. Jeff Sands is the principal of Dorset Partners, which specializes in corporate turnarounds. In a nutshell, he helps business owners save their businesses, their fortunes, their employees' jobs, and the communities they support. For 3 years running, Jeff and his firm have been awarded the prestigious Turnaround of the Year award, and in 2020, they were recognized as the Turnaround Consultant of the Year. Jeff is also the author of Corporate Turnaround Artistry, Fix Any Business in 100 Days. Jeff, such a pleasure to have you here, and this discussion couldn't come at a better time.
Domenic, thanks for having me. As I mentioned, I've been a fan of your podcast for quite some time, and I'm thrilled to be on here.
I appreciate that. So, Jeff, maybe if you could give our community a quick backgrounder on yourself and then talk about how did you get into the world of turnarounds? It's not an obvious career direction for a lot of people.
It is not obvious, and it is nowhere I intended to be. I got into it the hard way. My first turnaround was my own business. As I tell the story, all of a sudden I realized I don't know anything about fixing a business. I had an MBA, I had an economics degree, I'd been in the workforce for 15 years. I thought I was pretty smart. I realized the world never teaches you about running a business for cash, 13-week cash flow forecast, and all the inobvious ways to fix a business when the chips are really down. And that set me on a path where I ended up becoming obsessed with the topic, turned around my own business twice. And the second time was Hurricane Katrina. We were in New Orleans, lost everything. That put a chip on my shoulder. And I was determined to kind of, set things right, go save other businesses and their jobs and their communities. I've been doing that ever since. Just love it. There's nothing I would rather do than do this.
Well, it's good work, and it's certainly going to be needed again now. I mean, after coming out of 2008, I was hoping that was the last time, at least in my work life, that I'd see major effort having to go into turnarounds. But it looks like you're about to get very busy again here, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. I was waiting for just a normal recession, which was a bit overdue, but this is more than anybody ever wanted. This is just shocking dislocation that we're seeing. And it's not so the hurricane, I was right smack in the middle of it. You knew it was over and recovery had begun. Even you look at 08, 09, it's like you kind of knew where the bottom was and that recovery was coming. I don't know how to predict this thing other than it's going to upset a lot of people's businesses and dreams. And unfortunately it is already.
So Jeff, let's dive in. Somebody calls you or you get a referral into a business and the business is in trouble How do you assess whether or not that business is a good candidate for a turnaround? And buried in that question is, obviously, there are situations that probably just don't warrant a turnaround, I would imagine. So how do you go in and initially assess and decide, okay, this is a business we can turn around?
Superficially, if you're a typewriter store these days, you just shouldn't be around. And if you're in a turnaround, it's probably your time to look for the exit. But beyond that, it's generally the customers. If the customers want the business to survive, we'll find a way to make the business to survive. And that's the big thing. If you're running a stunningly mediocre, bumping along business and you get in trouble, there's often not a lot of people willing to bail you out. And I've been in businesses where the customers didn't care, the vendors didn't care, and the employees didn't care. It's hard to do much there. Because turnarounds are 100% a team effort, and all my success is getting all the stakeholders to support and lift up the company and bring it back to health. So it's really, what's there and do the stakeholders care enough? And when they care enough, it's absolutely amazing what you can pull off when the customers and vendors and employees and the bank are all pulling in your direction.
Yeah, so those stakeholders are key. And does it require all the stakeholders to be on board, or can you do a turnaround if one of them is, sort of lukewarm to it and doesn't really want to come along? Can you eventually pull them along, or do you really need all the stakeholders to get through a successful turnaround?
You pretty much need them all. A minor thing, maybe not, but really, and what we do, so we look at turnarounds as a four-legged stool, and all I need is everybody to do their job. I need the workers to work. I need the lenders to lend. I need the customers to consume, and I need the suppliers to supply. And if everybody does their job, then we can get out of it. Now, what normally happens when I'm called in, the employees are scared, the supply chain's locked up, the bank's upset, and those have created problems that impact the customer. Maybe it's late deliveries, incomplete shipments, that sort of thing. And then the customers start losing faith. And if I can convince all of them that, well, let's get back to where we were when everybody was happy here. And here's a good plan, and we're going to follow this. And I know this is what I do. It's all I do. And what it really is a very transparent plan that makes sense, that's executed quickly. And if you do all that, most people step in and follow. A lot of CEOs have burned up all their credibility in the process. And them telling the suppliers that they're going to get paid again for the 20th time just rings hollow. But if I come in and I say, you're going to get paid, and here's how, and here's why, and here's how it's going to work, but you got to be patient. No one's rolling in with wheelbarrows full of money, but we're going to get you paid, and we're going to keep a good customer of yours alive. Suppliers will help you. It's amazing what we pull off strictly through team effort.
What you're pointing to there is you're an independent third party coming in, and it's not hollow promises from the management team that's been giving them hollow promises for 6 months, a year, 2 years, right?
Yeah, that's it exactly. And a lot of it is just shocking amounts of confidence that I know what I'm doing. I've done this before. I'm going to do it again. I've seen much worse. This isn't so bad. We're going to get through this. And when you say that with just unshakable confidence, people believe it and they get in line. Now, of course, business owners can do that too, and they have to in these situations. And if I was going to self-criticize, I did not project the confidence I needed to and should have in my first two turnarounds, mostly because I was completely over my head. I didn't know what I was doing. But even so, that was my role, and I failed at that role. You have to, and I flat out fake it at times, and the results turn out great because everybody bought into, we can work our way out of this, even if I thought it was impossible. You got to get everybody believing. And that's, in a time like this, that's the CEO's job, is and the board, and to project that confidence and get everybody to rally around. It's a lot of a numbers game. There's 100 companies in bank workout department. Somebody's ranked last and somebody's ranked first. And if you're the A student showing up every day with a smile on your face, just willing to take the beating with a chipper attitude and determined to work your way out of this, people are really going to treat you well, and they're going to reward you for your hard work and attitude. And if you're at the other end, either freaked out and like frozen in place because you can't process everything that's going on, or, you You don't want to let go of the fantasy of success that was in your head, and you don't want to face reality like it's hitting you today. If you're those folks, you end up getting chewed up by the bank and and they go and they liquidate their collateral and you get ground up, and the numbers can be the same. The balance sheet can be the same. All the problems can be the same. It's entirely attitude that pulls you out of this.
Yeah, we say the same thing in M&A. Leadership really matters. These are healthy deals, but you have to provide good leadership to your clients. And when you can provide good leadership and be confident because you've got years of experience and how many deals behind you, they'll follow. And that really, really matters. So let's talk about business owners for a second. Mm-hmm. And let's wind back to you're first introduced to a business owner. What questions should a business owner be asking themselves before they decide to retain you and your firm? Because I think from an outsider looking in on turnarounds, because we haven't really done a lot of turnarounds, you have to be committed to the process as an owner and a CEO. So what sort of soul searching should they be doing, do you recommend with themselves before they retain you?
I've never been asked that question, but while you were asking it, what popped into my head is picture the morbidly obese person outside of, Weight Watchers or Planet Fitness. What's in their head is all that matters. Are they truly, honestly resolved to fix their problems, a bit freaked out, a bit scared, but 100% committed to getting out of this situation? If that person has that attitude walking into the gym, a year later, they're going to be a different person. But if they're the kind of person that just goes along with it and doesn't have that commitment, things aren't going to change. I use the Rocky Balboa analogy with clients a lot because everybody's seen the movie. They know it. Like if you're willing to get up at 4 a.m. and drink a whole glass of raw eggs and run around like a maniac and completely exhaust yourself, I will absolutely positively get you out of this hole, and we're going to have a fun time doing it, and we're going to leave everybody else in the dust, because the folks who aren't drinking a metaphorical glass of raw eggs, they're the ones that are going to catch all the problems. Turnarounds are all about speed and precision, and if you know what to do and you do it fast and aggressively, you're going to pull out of it, because all your problems only move so fast. The bank only moves so fast, reality only moves so fast, and the law only moves so fast. And you can out-hustle all of them if you know what you're doing and you go strong in the right direction.
So I'm curious how you test that in your world and in Owners Resolve, because in healthy transactions, one of the things that our team will ask owners to really test their motivation around selling the business is, what are your plans post-transaction? What are you looking to do? And when they can describe to us in tremendous detail what they're doing the day after they sell the business, we know they've got their heads wrapped around selling. How can an owner, and how do you test whether the owner's got their head wrapped around a turnaround? Can you, or is it just too chaotic of a time to really be able to pinpoint that person's really ready?
The extremes are easy. The person who says, get me out of this, I don't care. I remember I had a CEO of an $80 million trucking company who said, I don't care about anything in the world. I don't care about my kids. I don't care about my dog or my wife. Get me out of this damn bank. And that's the only thing I care about. That was obvious. I get others, the other end. They want the results to change. They don't want the inputs to change. They want to keep the fancy car. They want to keep the country club membership going. They want to keep all the dumb things they've been doing going, and they're not truly committed to salvation. And, most folks are in the middle, and quite frankly, I was in the middle. I was confused, scared. My pride had been wounded, all that stuff. And that's where most are. My job is to take them from that befuddlement into clarity and into salvation, and point them in the right direction and not let them kind of drift back into normal human instincts.
Yeah, makes sense. So let's go back and talk about the 4 constituents in a successful turnaround: the employees, the lenders, the clients, and the suppliers. What is your approach there? Are you bringing all of these groups together? Is there complete transparency amongst the groups, or are you still isolating the groups, providing transparency, but really you're working with them one-on-one, or do you bring everybody together? And is it really sort of that kind of team effort?
Let me step back one step. So I often just go into the client and I say, okay, if you look around, your employees have always been paid full and on time every 2 weeks. Your customers have gotten their shipments probably at a low market price for years and years and years. They've been happy. Your suppliers have, up until recently, were always paid completely and on time, but somehow you're broke, which means we're just uneven. The customers have to pay a bit more, the suppliers have to discount a little bit more, and the employees have to work a bit harder because equity everybody can't benefit except the owner. Everybody has to benefit equally. And then when we go into it, everybody's got to do their job. So it's as much transparency as I possibly can. I will do the first two things I do is a 13-week cash flow and a liquidation scenario. Here's what we got, folks. This is the most reality-based thing you'll ever face. I absolutely share that with suppliers. But listen, I'd love to pay you. Here's the situation, but here's the path of how we get out and how you get paid. And we absolutely do that with the bank because, quite frankly, the bank's already doing a liquidation analysis, and I want to make sure I'm comparing mine with theirs. The customers, you don't want to freak the customers out, so we generally protect them and make it seem more operational with maybe a little bit of cash flow issues, but nothing for you to worry about. We're on this. And employees, we're straight up honest with them, maybe not bearing all the numbers that they can take home and analyze, but I tell them, listen, y'all, it's no secret. The company is in trouble. They haven't been repairing equipment. They haven't been reinvesting in their employees. We're broke, but the bank's going to support us and we're going to get everybody else's support and we're going to work our way out. But quite frankly, I need y'all to work a whole lot harder than you have been. This is sort of Rocky Balboa time for everybody.
And so as far as how it lays out, are you meeting with them individually then as groups? You're meeting with the employees separately? You're not really bringing the banks and the employees and the suppliers together.
Correct.
You're dealing with them in silos and yet being transparent with all of them equally.
Yep, in silos. And then often building contingencies. We saved a business last year that was in the process of closing. We ended up buying it 2 months after it closed. We got the politicians to support us, and then we got customers to support us, and then we went into the suppliers and said, hey, the state's going to give us some grant money. The customers are with us. We need you to be with us. We got the suppliers. Then we went to the United Steelworkers, who was a union, and said, everybody else is with us, but now we need your help. Will you help? And they said, yeah, we're in. And then all four of us went to the bank, kind of broke down the bank's door and got them to be supportive, initially against their will. And then we had everybody. And, if you got that, then we took it was a 113-year-old factory. It had been shut down for 2 months. We restarted it with everybody's support and help.
Wow, that's tremendous. Jeff, I'm assuming there's no one life cycle of a turnaround because every situation is so different. But without putting timeframes on it, could you give us a sense for what are the major blocks that go into the life cycle of a turnaround? And is there an average of how long it typically takes?
Generally 3 to 9 months. First step is controlling cash. You have to control the cash. That's your oxygen. And once it's gone, you're cooked. And that's a 13-week cash flow. So the first thing you do is that you run, and quite frankly, I just abandoned the P&L. I don't even look at it for a while. I run the business 100% on the 13-week cash flow. Once that's stabilized and we can start generating some free cash, then you're basically in a turnaround plan. Turnarounds are simple. Cut costs, increase revenues. So, how do we do that? How do we go raise prices on folks? How do we decrease our costs? How do we run more efficiently? SKU rationalization. A lot of times it's retreating back to a core. Often I'll get a call, making up numbers. They'll tell me they have a $10 million business. I'll say, send me the financials. They send them and I say, y'all are doing 7. I thought you said 10. Well, we were doing 10. We just got to get back to that. And I look at it and I say, I think there's a fabulous $5 million company. If I was going to buy it, I'd jettison the other 2 and focus on that $5 million core and get real strong there for a couple of years and build back. That's how to get to 10 and not this sort of house of cards thing that a lot of folks have been doing.
That's a great point.
And then once you've got that strong core, then you can start figuring out, okay, where do we want to go from here? Do I want to sell the business? Do I want to hold on to it? Do I want to do an ESOP? And then really, what does the entrepreneur want with their business? Where do they want to go? And I try to drive to a point of maximum optionality within, let's call it 6 to 9 months, where, the clouds are parted, the sun's coming out again, and the owner really gets to step back with a clear head and figure out where they want to go next.
And how much work, Jeff, after that 3 to 9 month period do you do on a go forward basis with a client just to make sure that they don't revert back to their old ways, get into trouble, and they really do stay the course on this new path that you've put them on?
Honestly, none. They all want me gone. They all want to pretend it was a bad dream, that it never really happened. And me leaving sort of helps them paint that story in their head. I had 2 brothers a couple of years save a $80 million business, just a great business. And at the end, I said, okay, everything's fine. We got a new bank. I mean, everything's great. And I said, y'all are totally going to screw this up again in a couple of years. And here's the proposal. I can come in as a third partner and guarantee your success. It's cheap insurance policy. I'll eat last. And it was a great deal. They said no. They wanted to pretend it never happened. They didn't like running a tight ship, and they wanted to go back to their old habits. And 5 years later, they lost their business in 2 catastrophic weeks, and that was it. That's normal. They all want me gone.
Yeah. Any sense for what the recurrence rate is in these turnarounds? I imagine there isn't a national statistic on this, but is it something that would surprise me? Is it 50% of the time, or is the success rate much higher than that after they've been turned around?
Yeah, I would totally be guessing. It's hard to define too. Did I get them? Were they kind of a C student who, dropped down to an F? I got called in, but they're probably really happy being a C plus student. It's few that go from average to superior. Some do. And when I do an acquisition, I'll be the incredibly active turnaround manager and then move to a board seat and help. We're trying to get a perpetual C student up to A over the course of, call it 5 years. It's that slow incremental improvement. But some entrepreneurs really see the light through the turnaround. And you look at billionaires, many of them have been forged through the dark valley of a turnaround. And they say, you know what, I would never have accomplished what I accomplished without the scars and beating and life-changing event that I went through in a turnaround. And that's what changed me.
Yeah. So that's a great point. And I'm assuming you've seen this throughout your career, that even though these are going to be really tough times for a lot of people, there's also going to be tremendous opportunities here, right?
Tremendous. You think how hard you're moving and hustling and working in a turnaround. Your competitors are still working the same pace that they've always been. And now you're hustling twice as hard. We restructured the debt. I mean, at the end of a turnaround, you generally come out as the sharpest knife in the drawer compared to all your competitors. You've got a cleaned up balance sheet. And if you want to go kick ass, you can go kick a whole bunch of butt. Or if you want to just go back to sort of a level of comfort and, a balanced lifestyle, you can do that as well. But we try to do everything from, the P&L to the balance sheet to the org chart and get a super tuned up business. So if you compare to humans and 55-year-old, I can get a 55-year-old on the treadmill in great shape in 1 year, looking super, and they're going to have a good, healthy 5 years ahead of them. I don't know what's going to happen at the age of 80 or 90 and what pre-existing conditions there might be, but I can totally tune them up and give them a couple years of great vitality that they get to choose what to do with from there.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. Sounds like boot camp, right? You go to boot camp, you're in the best shape of your life, which was sort of the genesis of my earlier question is how many of those people can stay at that point? And I'm glad to hear that you stay on in a board position, because to me, that's a sort of discipline that they need on an ongoing basis to make sure they're staying the course and being nimble. I love the examples you've given, Jeff. Any others that you could think of that M&A Unplugged community would enjoy hearing?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple quick ones. But as you were mentioning boot camp, everybody knows boot camp's tough, but you go ask anybody who's been through the military, they'll say That was some of the best times in their life. And there's the old saying, that which was most bitter to endure is sweetest to remember. And I think that's what turnarounds are. I mean, I have a blast. I try to help everybody else have a heck of a good time and make it we're going to go through this. Let's enjoy it and have a good attitude and go kick butt while we can. I'll give you a really simple one, and I'll give you a couple of the extreme ones. A really simple, super nice couple was always running out of cash about once a month. The bank was always over advancing them. And the bank said, would you just go help these poor folks? We love them to death. We're just tired of the over advance. So I figured out how to help them get paid a week earlier on average, how to pay their vendors a week later on average. Basically created 2 weeks of free cash flow, kept them away from needing an over advance. They were happy. The bank was happy, and customers and suppliers were very happy to participate. Some of the more extreme ones I've had, I was called into a company the day after the CEO committed suicide. The FBI was ready to arrest people, employees on 3 different felonies. Revenues had fallen from 45 million to 6 million. All the equipment was broke down. Nobody was really working or paying attention, and they all had a bad attitude. Detroit in 2009, revenues had fallen 90% in 9 months. The owner was going off to the hospital for 3 months of intensive cancer treatment, and executives were literally having fistfights. We made that thing profitable in 2 months, took over a paper mill that had 3 weeks from closing. The customers were all gone. The suppliers were gone. The inventories were run down. The employees were looking for work elsewhere and leaving. And I'm sure about 10 other things I can't even remember. 3 different unions. I had tremendous success there. I like the hairier stuff. It helps people focus. Little problems, people don't focus on little problems. People focus on big problems and take them seriously. And that's, I think, where you get the superhuman efforts and where we can get the great results. All mine are bad news bears stories. I never walk into Alabama's football team and create a winning season. I go into, it is the bad news bears. Everybody has a bad attitude. Everybody's been mistreated and underappreciated for years. But they all want to win deep down inside. And if I can tap into that and get everybody to say, we're going to go taste victory again, it's contagious. And that's the fuel.
Yeah. Those are some tremendous stories. Although I get the sense that with this economic downturn, we're going to have more situations where things haven't been going poorly for a long time. It was due to this, international pandemic, and things turned ugly very quickly, but they're still going to need people like you to help them. And so along that point, Jeff, how does somebody know that they're bringing in a turnaround specialist that really has the goods? Like, what separates the good from the so-so turnaround specialists?
So in 2008-09, it seems like every unemployed CFO in the country was calling themselves a turnaround specialist. And every CFO has either done one or always wanted to do one. And I talked to a private equity firm the other day, and he literally said, I got a buddy who's a CFO who I would call. My dad always says, that's great, but when you have a heart attack, you need a cardiologist, not a chiropractor, regardless of the price. So to answer, I would say track record. That proof's in the pudding. If somebody's kicked ass on a couple dozen turnarounds, there's something there. If they're a CFO who always wanted to do a turnaround, probably go somewhere else. And then personality, fit, temperament, that sort of thing. Because in my experience, I would say somebody that's had to go through that with their own business and turn around their own business and has actually walked the proverbial mile in your shoes, I think that's invaluable. I think that's my biggest strength. Because I've been there and I know what it's like not to sleep at night and go through bankruptcy schedules and ultimately lose my business. And that I'm not a consultant. These are deeply personal for me. I pour my soul into these turnarounds. A lot of people, it's just another consulting project. It's a way to ring the cash register. They're not going to tear themselves up deep inside worrying about these jobs in this community and the tax base. And I do.
Yeah. Jeff, this has been tremendous information. I hope that you are well rested, because I get the sense that next year to 18 months, you're going to be a busy guy, you and your firm, because fortunately, there's going to be too many opportunities out there to go save.
Yeah, you're right. So to that end, I'm going to use that as a segue. over the last 3 years, I wrote a book, 336-page manual that's essentially a book to my prior self for any CEO who finds themselves in the midst of a turnaround. It is all the deep tactical tricks that I've learned. I've read over 50 turnaround and distressed investing books and really focused on what was missing, which was largely deep cash flow tricks, mindset, and debt restructuring. The most coincidental timing ever, Wiley published it a month and a half ago.
Wow.
So, it's everything I could pour out of my head in 336 pages. It's on Amazon. And I really wrote it as I'm moving upstream and working with bigger and bigger companies. I didn't want to let the $5-10 million revenue companies not have my help. So in a way, it was let me just dump it all here and it'll always be available for everybody while I go work on bigger and bigger deals.
That's great. Yeah, timing is impeccable. Jeff, if folks wanted to get in touch with you, how could they reach you?
So my website is dorsetpartners.com, DORSET partners.com, and I'm simply Jeff at dorsetpartners.com. Shoot me an email and happy to talk. And, we always start off with a bunch of free advice. And if there's a relationship, we want to work together, we'll probably find a way.
Jeff, thanks so much. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Dominic. A great opportunity. And again, I'm a longtime big fan of your podcast, so keep it up.
Appreciate that. M&A Unplugged community, I just want to highlight a few things that Jeff brought up, really resonated with me. First off, this is very much a team effort. If you're going down this path, if you're in a turnaround, you need to get everybody on board. If you are the owner and CEO of that business, you have to be 150% committed to this process. I don't think, and Jeff validated, you can go into this thinking you can retain some of the assets that you've accumulated over time. I think you need to go into this eyes wide open and be completely committed to the process and then work with professionals. This is not something where I think you want to cut corners and bring in people where they would hope they've done these things before. They have some minor skill set. You want folks that have done this and done it many times. All of today's information will be available in the show notes. If you would like to learn more about the process of acquiring or selling a business, please visit our website at sunacquisitions.com or feel free to reach out to me at drinaldi@sunacquisitions.com. I look forward to seeing you again on the next episode of the M&A Unplugged podcast. And until then, please remember that scaling, acquiring, or selling a business takes time, preparation, and the proper knowledge.
Thank you for joining us today on M&A Unplugged. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and recommend it wherever you get your podcasts. If you want more great information on how to scale, acquire, or sell a business, please visit our website at sunacquisitions.com.